My parents kicked me out at 16 and now want me to take care of their new daughter. My parents threw me out when I was 16 and pregnant, called me a whore, said I was dead to them, told me I'd burn in hell for spreading my legs. Mom changed the locks while I was at school, and by dinner they were eating at my empty place setting like I'd never existed. I lived behind the high school for 6 months with my growing belly, but Mrs. Crawford, my English teacher, found me eating from the cafeteria dumpster and took me in. She wasn't just some teacher being nice. She became my real mother, drove me to prenatal appointments, held my hand during labor, watched my daughter while I went to night school. She co-signed my first apartment, helped me apply for college grants, taught me how to write business proposals. I built a nonprofit for pregnant teens while raising my baby. Started with one apartment. Now I have facilities in 12 states. We house 300 girls a year, provide childcare, education, job training. Last year, the government gave us a $50 million grant. My daughter Judy is 15 now, honor roll, varsity soccer, wants to be a doctor. My parents never met her, never called once in 15 years, not when I graduated college, not when I won the humanitarian award, nothing. I sent them one announcement when I opened my first facility. They sent it back unopened. When Mrs. Crawford walked me down the aisle at my wedding 5 years ago, I didn't even consider inviting them. Then, completely out of nowhere, my parents showed up at my office, not to apologize, not to reconnect. They brought their adopted daughter Abigail, 16 years old and 4 months pregnant. They wanted to sign over guardianship immediately. We can't do this again, Mom said without a hint of irony. The audacity was staggering. These people who destroyed their pregnant daughter's life were trying to abandon another pregnant teenager. Dad actually brought legal paperwork, already filled out. They just needed my signature. You help these kinds of girls anyway, he said with a straight face. I told them I needed to review the documents with my lawyer, hoping they'd leave. Instead, they started bombing my phone. 20 calls before lunch, pictures of Abigail crying, threats about what would happen to her if I didn't help. You owe us for the shame you caused. God gave you this organization to fix our problem. The messages got more vicious each hour. Remember, you're still going to hell. This is your only chance at redemption. We'll tell everyone you refuse to help your own sister. They even called my staff, my board members, claiming I'd already agreed to take Abigail. After 3 days of non-stop harassment, I made a plan. Give my parents one chance to do right by Abigail, then call CPS if they refused. I had already talked to Detective Walters from CPS, who told me, record the conversation. I'll have officers ready if they refuse to keep her. So, there I was with Mrs. Crawford, making the 3-hour drive to my parents' house. I literally couldn't stop shaking. Every mile made my chest tighter. I was successful now, but suddenly I was 16 again, pregnant and terrified. Mrs. Crawford noticed me rubbing my stomach, the same protective gesture from when I carried Judy. You still do that when you're scared, she said softly. The texts kept coming. Each notification made me flinch. 15 years of therapy, and their words still cut deep. We pulled up at 7 p.m. Through the window, Abigail was crying on the couch, Mom pacing, Dad with his head in his hands. She looks just like you did, Mrs. Crawford said. As Mom noticed us through the window, her face went white. Good, let them panic. They came outside before I could knock. Mom stood on the porch, arms crossed like she was defending her territory. Dad stayed by the door with Abigail, who looked smaller than any 16-year-old should. Get back in the car, Mom commanded. We'll bring Abigail to your facility tonight. I'm not going anywhere, I said, hitting record on my phone, and neither is she. Mrs. Crawford stepped forward. Mom's mouth fell open. She hadn't expected Mrs. Crawford. Detective Walters from CPS is on her way, I announced. Child abandonment is a felony. 3 to 5 years. Dad went pale. You called the police? On your own parents? I laughed, but it came out bitter. You're strangers who happen to share my DNA. Abigail started crying. Real tears, not the manipulated photos they'd sent. Please, she begged. I can't do this anymore. I need real help. Mom spun around. After everything we've done for you, Abigail? You mean threatening to throw her out? I asked. I walked past them to Abigail, handed her my card. When you're ready, call me. I understand what it's like. Mom grabbed my arm. Blue lights appeared down the street. Walters was here. Walters took Abigail to her aunt in Oregon that night, the one who'd been begging to help since she found out about the pregnancy.